Body Count self-titled album. Ice-T released his heavy metal band Body Count's self-titled debut in March 1992. The album mixed thrash metal with rap and featured intense political commentary. The final track on the album was called Cop Killer, which Ice-T wrote as a protest song about police brutality. He performed it live at Lollapalooza in 1991, a full year before the studio version came out. The song referenced Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates and Rodney King, whose beating by LAPD officers had been caught on camera. Ice-T explained the track was sung from the perspective of someone fed up with police violence, not as a literal call to action. The controversy started heating up after a Texas police organization called for a boycott in June 1992. Which brought the album into the national spotlight. Sales of Body Count tripled in Texas alone, with Houston reporting a 370% increase. Some police departments in North Carolina threatened to stop responding to emergency calls from stores that continued selling the album. Vice President Dan Quayle called the song obscene, and President George H.W. Bush publicly condemned any record company that would release it. At a shareholders meeting, actor Charlton Heston stood up and read lyrics from the album out loud to embarrass Time Warner executives. Death threats were sent to Warner Brothers staff, and some stores stopped responding to emergency calls if the album stayed on shelves. By July 1992, Ice-T decided to pull the song from future pressings of the album. He explained that employees at Warner Brothers had received death threats and he wanted to move past the controversy. The album had already been certified gold by that point, reaching number 26 on the charts. The studio version of Cop Killer has never officially been re-released, although a live version appeared on a 2005 album. Quick pause, if this kind of analysis interests you, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Lil' Kim, Hardcore. Lil' Kim dropped Hardcore in November 1996 after gaining attention with Junior Mafia. The album was executive produced by the Notorious B.I.G. and featured some of the most sexually explicit lyrics hip-hop had heard from a female rapper at that time. Tracks like Big Mama Thang and Not Tonight pushed boundaries that had mostly been held by male artists. The promotional campaign featured provocative photos of Kim in revealing outfits, which drew attention from critics and community leaders. The album cover showed her in a squatting pose surrounded by furs, and posters with similar imagery were put up around New York City to create buzz. Radio stations and music video channels had mixed reactions to the content, with some embracing it and others pushing back. Feminist groups debated whether Kim was taking control of her sexuality or reinforcing negative stereotypes. Some argued she was simply doing what male rappers had been doing for years, while others felt the explicitness went too far. The controversy didn't hurt sales. Hardcore debuted at number 11 on the Billboard 200, selling 78,000 copies in its first week. The album was certified double platinum by 2001 and went on to sell over 5 million copies worldwide. Tracks like No Time became her first number 1 on the rap charts, making her the first female rapper to have 2 consecutive number 1 singles on that chart. The remix of Not Tonight with Missy Elliott, Da Brat, Left Eye, and Angie Martinez was nominated for a Grammy in 1998. Hardcore is now considered a landmark album that changed expectations for female rappers and influenced artists like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick Lamar released To Pimp a Butterfly in March 2015, a year after the success of Good Kid, Mad City. The album was a major departure from anything he had done before, blending jazz, funk, and soul with dense political commentary. Songs addressed racism, depression, institutional discrimination, and the pressures of fame in ways that felt deeply personal and uncomfortable. The album featured guest appearances from George Clinton, Snoop Dogg, Ronald Isley, and Thundercat, with production from Flying Lotus, Pharrell Williams, and others. Tracks like The Blacker the Berry drew criticism for their confrontational approach to race in America. The song's final line, where Kendrick called himself a hypocrite for protesting racism while having participated in gang violence, sparked intense debate. Some listeners questioned whether Kendrick was the right person to lead conversations about social justice. Critics debated how white audiences should approach what one journalist called the overwhelming blackness of the album. The song All Right became an anthem for the Black Lives Matter movement, but the album as a whole was too experimental and heavy for mainstream radio. The album's challenging and unconventional sound made it difficult for mainstream radio, but Kendrick supported it with the Kunta's Groove Sessions tour from late 2015 into early 2016. Despite being experimental and heavy, the album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and was certified platinum. It received 7 Grammy nominations and won Best Rap Album in 2016. Rolling Stone later ranked it as one of the greatest albums of all time, and many consider it one of the most important hip-hop records of the 2010s. 2 Live Crew, As Nasty as They Wanna Be. 2 Live Crew released As Nasty as They Wanna Be in 1989. The album featured sexually explicit lyrics and artwork that immediately caught the attention of politicians and law enforcement. The single "Me So Horny" became a national hit, reaching number 26 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the rap charts, which brought even more scrutiny to the group. In 1990, a Florida judge ruled the album legally obscene, making it the first rap record to receive such a ruling. Record store owners were arrested for selling it, and members of the group were detained after performing songs from the album live. The ruling sparked a national debate about censorship and free speech in music. 2 Live Crew fought the case in court, arguing that the ruling violated their First Amendment rights. They released an album called Banned in the USA in response, which became the first record to carry a parental advisory sticker. The album directly addressed the legal battle and criticized officials like the Broward County Sheriff who had targeted them. The group eventually won their appeal, which became a landmark moment in the fight over censorship in hip-hop. The case established broader protections for rap lyrics under free speech laws. Despite the controversy and legal battles, the album's notoriety helped drive sales and cemented 2 Live Crew's place in hip-hop history as artists who fought for creative freedom. NWA, Straight Outta Compton. NWA released Straight Outta Compton in 1988. Bringing West Coast gangsta rap into mainstream American culture. The album depicted life in Los Angeles with raw detail, covering police harassment, poverty, and gang culture in ways most audiences had never heard before. The production was aggressive and the lyrics were unfiltered. The track that caused the biggest problem was a song criticizing law enforcement for racial profiling and abuse of power. The FBI sent a warning letter to the group's label, and police organizations across the country protested. Politicians used the song as evidence that rap music was dangerous and harmful to society. This marked one of the first times the US government openly responded to a rap record. MTV banned the video for the title track, which only increased the group's reputation for being too controversial for mainstream media. Critics accused them of glorifying crime and violence, while fans argued they were simply documenting the reality of life in Compton. The album cover showed one member pointing a gun towards the camera while the rest of the group looked down, matching the confrontational tone of the music. Even with bans and boycotts, Straight Outta Compton went platinum and spread nationwide. The album eventually achieved triple platinum certification. In 2016, it became the first rap album inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and a year later it was added to the Library of Congress National Recording Registry for being culturally and historically significant. The album forced conversations about censorship, race, policing, and artistic freedom that extended far beyond hip-hop. It established NWA as pioneers of West Coast rap and set the stage for the explosion of gangster rap through the 1990s. The album remains one of the most influential and controversial records in hip-hop history. Smash that like button, subscribe if you want more music-related content, and comment which era you want me to analyze next. Your suggestion might be the next video.